vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Todayam Hiraye
Todayam Hiraye
Nasta Praishpavadreshu
Nasavareshvadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavata Pitamasloke
Bhagavati Utamashloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiti
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki.
Hare Krishna. Reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text number 14. 12 through 14, is that right? 12 through 14. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the verse. Let's do the translations. Yeah, that's fine. Which one are we starting? 12. Okay.
What is the value of the long life which is wasted and experienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after the supreme interest.
The same day came after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of God.
Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life.
Prabhupada writes, the rituals are not formal, but there are some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out, which will be instructed in the subsequent verses. Okay, so back to text 12. Let's do this Sanskrit, please. Kim pramatasya bahubi
Nibramantasya Bahubi
Roshar Hayanayariha
Aroshaya Hayanayariha
Aram Muhurtam Viditam
Varam Murtam Vidam
Bhaktate Shreyase Yata
Gayate Shraseyata
Kim pramatasya bahubi
Nibramantasya Bahubi
Aroshar Hayanayariha
Aroshaya Hayanayariha
Varam Muhurtam Viditam
Varam Murtam Vidam
Bhaktate Shreyase Yata
Gayate Shraseyata
Krishna.
Nibramatasya Bahubi
Nibramantasya Bahubi
Parokshaya Neriha
Paroshaya Hayanayariha
Muhurtam Viditam
Varam Muhurtam Viditam
Vatate Shreyase Yataha
Gayate Shraseyata
Kim pramatasya bahubi
Kim pramatasya Bahubi
Parokshaya nariha
Paroshaya Hayanayariha Varam Muhurtam Viditam
Gatate Shreyase Yata
Gayate Shraseyata
Kim pramatasya bahubi
Kim pramatasya Bahubi Paroshaya Hayanayariha Varam Muhurtam Viditam Gayate Shreyaseyata.
Anyone else? Okay, and synonyms together, please. Kim, what is? Pramatasya, of the bewildered. Bahuni, by many. Paroshai, inexperienced. Ayanai, years. Iha, in this world. Varam, better. Muhurtam, a moment. Viditam, conscious. Gatate, one to try for. Shreyase, in the matter of supreme interest. Yata, by that. And translation together. What is the value of a long life which is wasted and experienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after the supreme. Warning, this purport has some hyperbole in it. What is the definition of hyperbole? Exaggeration to make a point. Who would like to start reading?
Sukadeva Goswami instructed Maharaj Krishna about the importance of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by every progressive gentleman. In order to encourage the king, who had only 7 remaining days of life, Srila Sukadeva Goswami asserted that there is no use in living hundreds of years without any knowledge of the problems of life. Better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. The supreme interest of life is eternal, with full knowledge and bliss. Those who are bewildered by the external features of the material world are engaged in the animal propensities of eat, drink, and be merry type of life, are simply wasting their lives by the unseen passing away of valuable years. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success. And the easiest possible procedure to attain this end is to chant the holy name of the Lord.
Okay, let's pause there for a moment. So in the previous verse, there was discussion about the 10 offenses to the holy name. Did we discuss that on Friday? Yes, okay. A little? Very little. All right, so the rest of the purport deals with 2 of those offenses, so I want to go into those. Nate, would you enlighten us? Yes. So, the first part of the purport deals with the topic of the verse, which is, again, what is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted and experienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. Remember this phrase from the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the vision of eternity. Krishna says, those with the vision of eternity can see what is going on in the modes, the Atma, the Prakriti. Does anyone remember, what are the 5 subjects of Bhagavad Gita? Go on. Just name one of them. Time. Bhagavan, Ishvara, God. Jiva, the soul. Karma, and what's that?
Relation between
No Prakriti. Yeah. Material nature, everybody's favorite. Yes. So there, Prakriti, material energy, God, the owner, Ishwar, the Jiva, the in between, Karma, the interaction of the Jiva with Prakriti, and then time. So the verse deals with this question of our position in time. What are we seeing in our moment-to-moment existence? In general, we are living in the past or the future, right? And that these are the modes of ignorance and passion pushing us. In the past, we're dealing with unchangeable things in our past we can do nothing about and cause depression. In the future, we're dealing with unforeseen or unknown things that may or may not happen, and we're dealing with anxiety. So the present moment is actually, eternity is present in this moment, but we're somewhere else. So the vision of eternity means to be able to see things from the current perspective and even more deeply understanding the position of the jiva in relation to Prakriti. That we are eternal and we're dealing with this temporary matter. And the things of the world preoccupy us almost 100%. The process of yoga, self-realization, Krishna consciousness just means to extract our awareness from the Prakriti into the vision of eternity. And for this moment, at least, let me understand, I am an eternal soul. All these things that are going on are the modes of nature, and my real condition is that I'm entangled in this prakriti, when in fact I have a blissful relationship with Bhagavan. You know, the government provides for criminals as well as law-abiding citizens, right? If somebody is a criminal, then they go to prison. And the prison is sponsored by the government, and they give them 3 hots and a cot, right? And so even those who don't cooperate are protected or maintained by the government. So similarly, Prakriti belongs to Bhagavan. It belongs to Ishvara, it belongs to God. The material world belongs to God, but we are thinking of it as ours. This is thievery, and it is punishable by imprisonment. And in spite of us wanting to enjoy that which is not ours to enjoy, the real proprietor is still taking care of us. So in this way, our vision of eternity is obscured by the temporary. So here, Sukadeva Goswami is the guru, the teacher, who's helping his student Parikshit see and capture this vision of eternity, this moment awareness of our eternal nature. He comes, I love this part of Bhagavatam because Sukadeva has been silent the whole first canto, not a word, not a single word in the entire first canto. But in the second canto, at the end, Krishna Maharaj says, "So please tell me what I should do." Oh, and Sukadeva comes out with both guns blazing. I love it. Let's see. My dear king, your question is glorious. His question is, what is the duty of someone who's about to die? Because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for all transcendentalists. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of the ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society. Actually, you can scroll back if you don't mind. If you want to read along. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night either in sleeping or sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. This is the verses of the first chapter of the second chapter. Anyway, and this beautiful verse. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva, knowledge of the soul, do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free of all miseries must hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, the super soul, the controller of and the savior from all miseries. So he comes out very strongly. People are too occupied with Prakriti. That's his first opening statement. And now he's saying, if you want to get you want the answer to your question, like what is my duty? What's the duty of somebody on the verge of death? Then it is here to focus on the eternal and to understand your position in relation to God in this world, and not just be kind of swept along. So the rhetorical question he asked, what's the value of living a life in this world without this knowledge? Whatever we get, we're going to lose. Whatever we acquire, we have to give up. Whatever we accomplish will be completely forgotten in the course of time. At best, somebody's name might be remembered. I always love going on campus. Every big building on campus has a name ascribed to it, right? There's Hebner Hall for business. And what's the chemistry building?
Lee Hall.
Lee Hall. And then the football stadium? Ben Hill Griffin. Ben Hill Griffin, a noted racist. So, yes, people, they work hard, accumulate money, they see they're going to die, and they start thinking, what can I do to perpetuate my existence? I can't keep my body, but at least let my name be on a building so people can think of me, or one of the statues or the plaques. So everybody is seeking this immortality, which just doesn't comport with our actual existence. So the path to immortality, actual immortality, is already there. I mean, we are immortal right now. We just don't think it's very important, or we're not aware of it. But our immortality is what gives us a vision. Knowing our immortality gives us this vision of eternity. Remember in the sixth canto, the demons and demigods are always fighting. It's like the Hatfields and the McCoys in American history. They're always fighting. And so at one point, the guru of the demigods tells them, okay, you need a special weapon, but to get this weapon, you're going to need the bones of the Dichi Muni. You can get these bones and grind them, and you'll be able to make this invincible weapon that will defeat the demons. So the demigods very humbly go to the Dichi Muni and explain the situation. Well, we're struggling in our war with the demons, and we need your bones to make a special weapon. And the Dichi Muni says, my bones? I'd have to give up my body. If I give up my body, how will I enjoy this world? And the demigods don't really know how to answer. And he says, just kidding. Sure, you can have my bones. So yeah, sure, you can have my bones. Because he says, what is the use of living in this world unless we help others? So this is the result of the vision of eternity, is this fearlessness of death. The result of the vision of eternity is perspective on all sorts of situations in life. You know how we get affected by things in our family, things in the news, things in school. They sometimes affect us very deeply, like we can't sleep at night. They hit us so hard. And this is all just emblematic or symptomatic of our lack of eternal vision. If we learn from the Dichi, like, what do we expect in this world? What do we expect? We know we're going to die. So why all the drama? Why all this attachment? Why all the emotional interaction? It's just because we are conditioned. Fortunately, we don't have to be free of conditioning to get free of conditioning. We can take up the process, even in a conditioned state. Srila Prabhupada says that he's talking about how pure devotees are always wrapped in thinking of Krishna, very fascinated with Krishna's pastimes. Shri Radhika Madhava Yor Paravapuya Lila Guna Rupa Nama Pratik Sanaswadana Lolupasali. The spiritual master aspires after relishing the Guna Rupa and Lila of Krishna, his name, forming qualities, and pastimes at every moment. But Srila Prabhupada says we don't do that. We are occupied with other things. And our attraction to Krishna's pastimes it fluctuates. And he said, that's all right. We're in a conditioned state. That's why we haven't acquired this deep taste, but it will come. And we don't have to start all the way at the highest level. So the vision of eternity is this foundational knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. That's what catapults us to the point of having taste for hearing about Krishna. So any questions on this much? Yes. John.
I've had this question before. This is my and you talked about other times when about people trying to carry on a legacy. And give an example, like, people founding certain buildings or departments and everything. And also, like they'll try to do works that they want to last forever. And I think about though, like Srila Prabhupada, he did that, right? He has like the best literary works of the Vedas, like known ever, and he has the movement and he has all the temples established. he said, he's gonna live on through the movement. So what makes this movement be able to like live on with a legacy, Srila Prabhupada's legacy, differently than somebody who's trying to carry on a mundane legacy?
Very good question. Very good question. The difference is that we carry the instructions of Srila Prabhupada in our lives. He gave this outline, 16 rounds for regular principles, associated with devotees, prasadam. He gave us all these gifts. If we take them, then we are actually connected with a living legacy. We are living our lives under the direction of Srila Prabhupada, you see, as opposed to just appreciating some famous person in history. It has affected us, it has impacted us, and changed our lives. Srila Prabhupada writes, the spiritual master lives forever in his instructions. So that's the difference. It's just a name, on reference. We are actually carrying on a living relationship with Prabhupada through his instructions. Okay. Now, when you're talking about literature, it reminded me, yes, many people aspire to be famous writers, to live on in their books. And Prabhupada said that he would live on in his books. What are his books but the distillation of the previous Acharya's books presented in a relevant way for his audience? So he encouraged us to write, and he said it doesn't matter if it's published or not published. It doesn't matter. You write for self-purification. So Prabhupada was writing, and then this is the second canto. He was writing this, probably he started this in Vrindavan before coming to America. This very part that we're reading right now. He finished the first canto, published it, now he continued to work on this Herculean task of doing the whole Bhagavatam. And just type with one finger, brother. And all the typing, all the correcting, all the gathering of materials, all the trips to the printer, everything. So he was doing this, and he said, you could not understand the ecstasy I was in without. You can't understand it. Because, he was so fulfilled, just fulfilling the order of his spiritual master. So I think of that in terms of literature, that he said, don't write with the thought whether or not it's going to be published, just write for self-purification. So he was doing this as his service for self-purification. That's one of the beauties of his books. There is no ego involved. Thinking of Emily Dickinson, anyone ever heard of Emily Dickinson? Famous poet. So she was a spinster, and she never married. She just lived with her family, her parents, and she wrote poems up in her room. And when she died, she left instructions for her sister to burn all of the poems. Never published. And her sister disobeyed her instructions, and now she's like a world famous poet. And that's an example of writing for the sake of writing, without thought of anything. So people want number of followers on YouTube, right? Number of hits, number of likes, number of views, whatever. That's sort of the modern equivalent. It's like more instantaneous. How many hits can I do? And this is how we gauge the value of our work, by how much recognition we're gaining from it. Whereas actual art, actual love, actual devotion is expressed regardless of whether it is appreciated or not. So this is the point. Just to pile up money is a waste of life. Okay, anything else? Let's read up on this.
I find that these words are interesting and this topic very interesting because we're here at Krishna House, practicing our spiritual life at its baby stages, like at least for me, definitely. And you see the goal, you see the inspiration of our spiritual masters, and that is like amazing, you know. And then you realize on a day-to-day basis, like just how far away you are actually from the goal. So in that reality, like this material condition reality, how do we actually find that steady progression, or you know, how does that look like, or you know, how do we like get inspired despite our current condition to like aim for that goal? Because our senses are obviously attracted to various like different activities other than service. And then you want to do service, but then you don't have taste. So like, what do you do?
There's a beautiful phrase Prabhupada uses: time nourishes the mode of goodness. Time, which is generally the enemy of the conditioned soul, actually nourishes the mode of goodness. It's the friend of the person who's in the mode of goodness. So what is the quality of the mode of goodness? It's persistence, it's steadiness, it's a progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. So how do we endure the distractions from our spiritual life? Again, by remembering what it is that we're doing. As I say, keep the eyes on the prize. Our two choices are to enjoy this life and die, or to use this life to end the whole repetition of birth and death. So it's a much more meaningful and powerful purpose. So how do we do it? We have to keep reminding our fragile intelligence by hearing Bhagavatam, by reading Prabhupada's books. Our taste is flickering. Right? Sometimes we love to serve, sometimes not. Sometimes we love to chant, sometimes not. Sometimes we love to hear Krishna's pastimes, sometimes not. This is because of the flickering and unsteady nature of the mind. So with the mode of goodness, over time, the reality sinks in more and more. And the senses don't stop acting up, they just become less effective on us. They affect us less. Rupa Goswami says it in this beautiful verse. When I chant the holy name of Krishna, I wish I had millions of tongues. And when I hear the holy name of Krishna, I wish I had millions of ears. And he says, Chaita Prangiti Sarvani Vijayate Sarvendriyam. When the holy name dances in the courtyard of my heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and my senses become inert. So when we have a taste, it has that effect that the senses lose their grip. Condition stage, an intermediate stage where we are now, is where we're fluctuating. Sometimes they got us, sometimes they don't. So getting enough perspective to see what's going on gives us the strength to make good decisions. In short, there's no substitute for time. My godbrother Charu asked Srila Prabhupada, and this is a private conversation, he was just in his room with me. He said, Prabhupada, how long, once you start chanting, how long does it take to become purified? I said, Prabhupada, he said, about 40 years. So what does it take to stay for 40 years is our question, really the question. There's no quick way to turn off the influence of the senses. We love it. If somebody could find it and market it, they'd have a lot of customers at Krishna House. But this is because Krishna is qualifying us. And again, the vision of eternity. We're looking so much at this one life, this one week, this one day, this 1 hour in Bhagavatam class. That's where our consciousness is. With perspective, we see we're just in the middle of one little lifetime. And how many lifetimes have we had? We're doing some interesting calculations the other day. Okay, so Lord Brahma's day is 1,000 Divya Yugas, which is a cycle of Satya, Treta, Warpora and Kali, right? Which is 4,300,000 years. So 1,000 of those day, and then the same duration is it. It's, four, what is that? That makes 4,300,000,000 right? Each day each night. So there's 8,400,000 species of life. So we as souls have the opportunity to go through all of those species 50 times in one Brahma's day. That's option A. Option B is to use this one particular life to end the whole thing. So this is the vision of eternity. This is what we hear and learn from the books. And this helps us to tolerate the intermediate stage where we don't have kids. We don't always have a kids. Anyone else? You got a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody.
No.
It's just following up on that. I find that it's also difficult to like, because we have a certain, like you want to do some certain like things with your life. Like there's something like you want to do and you plan to do, and then now we're bhakti yogis. Suddenly it feels like if you want to actually be a bhakti yogi, seriously, you have to like change your life completely. Like your whole entire life like brings like materially speaking, it's just like down the drain. So I don't know, is it like that or?
No, not at all. There is a perception that, and this was very prevalent in the 1970s. Maybe go Paul, remember it's like 70s, 80s. If you're a devotee, it means you're a missionary. They are one and the same. You're gonna be a devotee, you're gonna be out there spreading Krishna consciousness. And it has become very clear that that's not the nature of most people. That's a Brahminical role. It means a life of austerity. It means a lot of limitations materially. And it's not for everybody. And what happened was in the 70s, we all thought that was our lifelong calling. And then as we go along a few years, you see that's actually not something that we're really cut out for. And so then people would be confronted with this conflict, this, what is that called? It's a false dichotomy. When it appears it's either A or B, but in fact, it can be either one. And the false dichotomy was, well, if you want to be a devotee, you have to be a missionary. If you don't want to be a missionary, then you can't be a devotee. So when you say to be a bhakti yogi, well, I have to change all the things I was planning to do in my life. Unless you were pursuing a career as a butcher, you probably don't need to change your career plans, okay? Maybe a few other occupations, but the point is that we add Krishna. And so how do we add Krishna? We need a little time in an immersive environment to understand how that works. Just like we go to college to learn a trade, a field, and then we graduate, and then we go in and do it. Okay? So we study bhakti in an immersive environment, and then we go out and we're bhaktis in the world. A few will want to be religious professionals. That's the minority, and it's not necessary. I mean, we don't find Arjuna sitting down doing Bhagavatam class. We don't find Arjuna doing arti Krishna on the chair. It's just like, get him, fight him. So, to learn bhakti maybe is a short diversion in our career path, but it need interfere with other things. Can I just share one thing also personally? About 30 years ago, I wrote this poem, Vyas Puja poem, called Vyas Puja. And in that poem, I outlined all the sacrifices he had made to come to us, and I outlined the things that I could have done if I hadn't chosen to be a follower. And then, so just last year, I looked at this poem again. It's actually everything I listed on there, I got to do in a certain way. Every single thing I said, I could have done this, but instead I followed you. And then I ended up doing this, and this, in just indirect ways, and I hadn't even realized it. So the point is, if we have some desire, Krishna can fulfill it. Okay?
Maybe like one of the points you made, that we don't have to be purified in order to start getting purified, or something along those lines. And I just read something like, found a piece of knowledge on Instagram, believe it or not. But someone shared that their professor said that anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And it kind of seems like an absurd advice. But what it meant was like, say you want to do something, but you feel like I have to do it perfectly or I don't do it at all. So if you feel like if it's worth doing, then it's best that even if you do it poorly, then you should do it. I feel like similarly in the like process of bhakti yoga, like sometimes we feel like, oh, I cannot even chant, like it's so poor, why even bother trying? But if we just know that it's good for us and we just make an attempt to do it, that little bit takes us like far away than not doing it at all. So it doesn't have to be we do it perfectly or we don't do it at all.
Wonderful. That's so nice. I'm going to remember that. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly.
That's my insurance.
I always like to talk about these 4 stages of learning. Unconscious incompetence, where you don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence, where you know now, oh, I'm not able to do that. Conscious competence, I can do it if I really pay attention. And then unconscious competence, automatic. So these are the progressive stages of bhakti. Most people are unconsciously incompetent in bhakti. And then when somebody gives us a book or whatever, and then we become consciously incompetent. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not following any of these regular principles. So at least I know. Then, okay, all right. Consciously competent. And this is the stage that Sundar, you're describing, right? Where okay, I'm coming, I'm getting up, I'm doing my rounds. Some days I like it, some days I don't, but I'm doing it because I'm consciously competent. It's worth doing poorly. This reminds me of, and of course that leads to unconscious competence, where we're thinking of Krishna automatically all the time. This reminded me of Madhavendra Puri. Remember that famous verse?
Yeah.
He said, ever since I've taken up Krishna consciousness, everybody's down on me. My family thinks I'm crazy. My friends think I'm frustrated. The practitioners of Vedic sacrifices think that I'm misled. The wise philosophers think I'm puffed up. And the wealthy people think I'm wasting my time. Everybody's down on me. And still, my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve Govinda, even though I'm unable to do it. Worth doing poorly. Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
I often hear that whatever you do is at Krishna.
Whatever you do, just add Krishna.
Just add Krishna. Think of Krishna, add Krishna.
That's our marketing message. That's how Prabhupada captured us all. Just add Krishna. Just add Krishna. Yena tena prakarana manu Krishna naveshya. Just try to think of Krishna. The rules and regulations can come later. I always marvel how Prabhupada did the first initiation. He didn't even say anything about 4 regular principles. Did you know that? Yeah, he initiated his first batch of disciples, and the next day, one of them asked, "Now we're initiated, are there any rules?" And he said, "I'm very glad that you were asking that question." Then he posted the regular principles and a few other things on this famous handwritten document.
I have 2 things. I don't know where I heard this, but I heard what is like, what's the dwarf incarnation's name? Vamana. Vamana. What is like Vamana say, just add Krishna. And Vamana's like, just give me 3 steps. And then the second thing was I wanted to know about the four regulations. Is like Prabhupada had that, was that explicit, is that like explicit in the Gaudiya lot? Or Prabhupada made that explicit for us?
No, it's traditional. Remember, we were reading in the last part of the first canto about Maharaj Dixit receiving the age of Kali. And so Dharma, the bull, is standing on just one leg. So these four legs represent the four pillars of spirituality. What are they?
Passion.
Honesty. And cleanliness and one more. Austerity. So austerity, truthfulness, cleanliness, and mercy. Okay. Okay, so all three of the legs were broken, except truthfulness was barely hanging on. Okay, then we had a recent election in the US, and then but the four regular principles are associated with these four pillars of the faith. So it's not just something even as recent as Gaudiya Math, it's traditional. And Prabhupada gives different correlations with them, two different ways. First of all, cleanliness is always associated with illicit sex life. Cleanliness internally and externally. Gambling is always associated with honesty. But animal slaughter is sometimes associated with compassion and sometimes austerity. In India, you see this more than America. In India, people are like veg and non-veg. It's considered kind of an austerity to be veg, right? A little austerity. And intoxication, generally, is also associated with either austerity or compassion. Austerity and getting on the wagon, that's austerity. I'm habituated to the intoxicant, I'm going to stop. Never mind. I mean, think about it, right? Tobacco, austerity, alcohol, coffee. So, but austerity, intoxication also affects compassion. Why? Because a person who's addicted to intoxicants doesn't care about anyone or anything else. Think of an alcoholic parent, for example. They spend all the money on alcohol or drugs without consideration for the needs of others, even of their own family. So Prabhupada gives these two interchangeably, but the four principles are associated with the four pillars of religion. Okay. All right. We didn't quite finish. Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Share the midnight mentioned the word control. There's something Prabhupada shared in terms of recognizing these devotees as perfect or clean and right angle. So when he defines perfection as not something as a state of perfection, but something that's moving in a direction of perfection. If it's moving in the direction of perfection, it's recognized as perfectly situated.
Very nice. Moving in the direction. Before I forget, I want to say in regard to Vamana and its 3 steps. It's not that we're entirely dishonest. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a disclaimer, a caveat in one of his bhajans. He said, if you at all want to hang on to your society, friendship, and love, then don't go down to the Jamuna and see that little blue boy playing the flute. Because if you do, you'll never want to come back. So there's some more. Okay.
Proceed on proceed with caution.
Yes, proceed with caution, yes. Of course, people, that's what people say, the anti-cult people say, oh, don't start chanting, and they're going to suck you in. And because we get sucked in because Krishna is all attractive. Because we're getting a level of enjoyment and happiness that we could never find before in our lives. That's so. Yeah, you have we have this innate attraction to Krishna, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema, that's dormant in everyone's heart. And that's awakened, even if we're not perfect, when we're trying to properly situate ourselves. That's perfection, even trying.
We actually get sucked out.
We get sucked out. Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah,
From the den of.
that's right. Yeah. Oh, you're getting sucked in. No, I'm getting sucked out. Okay, anything else? Gopal, are we ready for breakfast?
Yeah.
It's on the outside.
Five minutes.
It is ready. Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. And Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Sarira Vijaya Charindiya Charita Jive Pere Visaya Sagare Charamani Vayati Navamai Sudhamati Tage Gita Jina Samsare Krishna Baladoya Moy Kari Vaye Nivana Prashadana Tilo Vai Sayam Ratapal Radha Krishna Gunaka Prene Kako Chaitanya Nita Janita Shila Prabhupada Gora Premanande Hari Hari Bo